Professor Kathy McNeil, and today we are working on a project where we're going to learn about grids, and we're going to learn about it through a peek in the brain of a master, a man named Massimo Vignelli. In 1965, Vignelli, who was already highly regarded as a graphic designer, took on a huge commission from the federal government. He was asked to design the materials for the National Park Service. And it was a huge project. There are several hundred of them. They're literally all over the country. And they cover a wide range of topics. And the material that's related to them to explain about the particular site varies from everything from modern pictures to photos of people who lived there or were associated with the site, paintings, photographs, maps. There's no limit to what you can actually see on that. For example, Delaware Water Gap is part of the National Park Service. And when we open this one up, it's a very simple fold-out brochure that talks about the area. But when we turn it over, there's this long map of the park area that is on both sides of the Delaware River, along the border of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So this particular site is a series of spaces where people visit to enjoy the outdoors. So there's no one place that people actually gravitate to and work and visit, as opposed to the Thomas Edison factory in West Orange, New Jersey. This is interesting. It's the Thomas Edison National Historic Park in New Jersey. And this site consists of two parts that are physically distant from each other. One being his factory, where he made his inventions and built materials. A timeline of his life with images and materials that he invented. And then on the back, the family home, Glenmont, which is in West Orange, about a 5-minute drive from the actual factory where he built things. And plus a guide down here to explain how to plan your visit, where you can see the labs, you can go to the house, and then a short map to get you navigating in the area as you visit the historic site. And whereas the Bunker Hill Monument, very small, and it really is just a map of the battle site in what is now Boston, an explanation of what happened there, and a few pictures. Pretty simple, but important to American history. When Vignelli took this project on, he created a grid that has remained in use ever since it was designed in the mid-1960s. He created what is referred to as a modular grid, and it is so flexible and adjustable and adaptable to the sort of materials that you see in a project like this that it's remained in place and continues to be used to this day. So we're going to make one ourselves. We're going to take a peek inside Massimo Vignelli's brain and figure out how he got to this point and get a look at how a master planned a project. To do this project, you're going to need the following materials. You're going to need 1-inch white artist tape, a ruler marked in inches and picas and points, an X-Acto knife with fresh blades, a fine point Sharpie, pencils, a simple cutting board to trim out materials. You're going to need this dummy copy, which is uploaded to the Blackboard site for you to print out and use at home. And the body copy and the headlines, of course, are set in his favorite type family, type Helvetica. You will also need a triangle, 30, 60, 90, that I asked you to purchase earlier this semester. Ideally, a T-square. T-squares are what allow us to make straight parallel lines. If you don't have this, I'll show you how to get straight parallel lines on any document. You'll need several pieces of 14 by 17 drawing paper or layout paper, a graphic ruler. Beginning of the year in your supply list, you were told to purchase these. There's several different types available. This is one of the simpler ones. It's made by Wes Scott, and it has all the basic tools that you need. These are what are referred to as E-gauges. This here is used to measure type. All type is measured in something called points. Points are a system of measurement that is specific to graphic design. There are 72 points in an inch, 12 points in a pica, and 6 picas in an inch. This also includes this ladder-like thing, which is called a leading gauge. A leading gauge is used to measure the space between lines of text. It has a point scale that we would use for measuring large type. And it also has a ruler set in picas and in inches. This is the basic. This will do everything you need it to do. We'll learn how to use this in this demonstration. This is the Cadillac. It's a Galaxy gauge, and it's the large one. GalaxyGauge.com. It's tools for graphic designers. And basically, if you can possibly quantify anything in graphic design, it is on this ruler, with a lot of handy-dandy guides as well. What we'll be using on this is the pica ruler. It also has a metric ruler in centimeters, a ruler in inches. It has measurements in millimeters and decimal inches. It has 2 E-gauges. One E-gauge is used for measuring serif typefaces. Another one is measured for measuring sans serif typefaces. When you begin to work with these materials, you'll find little differences between the two. You'll find a fraction to decimal conversion, weights and sizes of bullets and rulers, which being type characters are measured in points. You'll also have the leading and line spacing gauge, or the leading. We're going to recreate these documents that Vignelli created all these years ago as a class exercise working together. Start by downloading and printing the U.S. National Park Service Unigird system handout, which is in the Blackboard folder for this class. We also need to download and print these documents, which are dummy text that will be used in the grid layout that you will be creating. For now, we can put these aside, and then let's start working with our tools. What we're going to do is we're going to take on the layout paper, we are going to draw a grid using the measurements, using the tools that we have. First thing that you're going to do is you're going to line up the paper on this screen. If you have a T-square, quick instructions on how to use a T-square. This part of the T-square is called a blade. This part of the T-square is called the head. The head is always on the side that is used by your non-dominant hand. Since I am a right-handed person, the head for mine will be under control of my left. And when you do that and you line it up tuck it up tightly against the edge of a table that has a straight edge, you'll get a flat line. What we're going to do is now we're going to line this up so that it stays in place as we start working through our measurements. In order to line up a piece of paper and make it what's called square, start by taking a couple pieces of the artist tape, and I see how I've cut them off and put them on my hand. Go to the very top of your paper what we're going to do here is we're going to line up the paper so it's straight, so that every line mark that we make on here will be exactly parallel to the top and the bottom of the paper. The term for that is called squaring up. In order to do this, you place the piece of paper on your drafting board or on any flat surface. Put the head of the T-square by your non-dominant hand, which for me will be my left, and move the blade until it lines up perfectly with the top of the piece of paper, so it's even. If it's not, you're going to want to push on the head a bit with your hand to lift the blade and then line up the paper. When it's perfectly even, then you take your artist tape, put it in place, rub down to hold the paper. Now, every mark that you make on this drafting board will be parallel. The next thing I want you to do is to start marking out the grid. Vignelli made what's called a modular grid. There's several types of grids. This is a modular, and it's based on a series of units. Think of it like graph paper, where you have one box next to each other with a consistent amount of space all around it. So what you're going to do is start creating using your ruler and using marked off picas. So what we're going to do is we're going to start setting up one of these. This band is 100 points deep. Start at the top of your sheet. There are 12 points to a pica. So 100 points will be 9 picas and 4 points. Measuring from the top, count down 9 and then 4 and mark. If you do not have a T-square to make a straight line, the trick to make a straight line without a T-square, but you'll need a straight edge like a ruler. Measuring from the same reference point, mark it. Put 2 marks in place. That way, when you need to draw a straight line to connect them, you have a spot to line your ruler up. In this case, since I have a T-square, I'm going to bring my ruler up here, line up my T-square exactly on the marks, and then holding my pencil vertically, draw a line. Again, looking at this piece, the headline for the text in this black band is always white type, and it's always indented. It is always indented 2 picas from the edge. So I'm going to take my pica ruler, again measuring from the left, start with the origin point of 0, and marking 2 picas. In order to make a vertical mark on a document like this, what you do is you take your triangle, place it on the top of your T-square so that this is lined up perfectly like that. There's no gap. Then take your pencil, lined up with the 2 pica point mark, and mark it off mark off that margin with your pencil. To make this vertical margin here, you measure in. This is 2 picas. Measure in with your ruler. Measure in 2 picas with your ruler. Mark it. And then using your triangle placed against the top of the blade of your T-square to make a vertical mark, place your pencil along the edge and draw a line. When you begin to develop the units for the grid within this space, this is where you'll start measuring on your vertical marks. This is where you start measuring on your horizontal marks. Okay, so let's start setting up that grid. Using our T-square, we're going to draw a straight line to show our grid unit, and then another straight line 10 points apart to show the spacing in between the units. Another line, and then again using the triangle to give us a vertical mark. And you see how I'm just moving it very gently with my fingers? You want to make sure that the triangle, that whatever part of the triangle is touching your blade, remains tight. That's how you get straight parallel lines. Okay, and then proceed to fill this board as much as you can with grid units established. We're going to start populating it. We have two different sheets of headlines. This is headlines that are positive and in the bold or the condensed typefaces. These are reversed out. These are the reversed out ones go in this area up here. And then we also have different sizes. There's a set of standard sizes that Vignelli uses. They're referenced in the handout that you have with the leading. All of these pieces are set for that particular thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to start cutting these pieces apart. You'll notice that I'm using a straight edge to do that, so we get a nice clean mark. To assemble this, we're going to use a glue stick. When Vignelli started working up this project, he realized that he needed a limited type family, which is why he picked Helvetica, and he needed a certain amount of standardization to get the visual consistency that he was hoping to see. This is body copy. It's Helvetica. It's usually 8 on 10 or 9 on 12. It's always justified, and he usually runs it in units that are two columns wide, 2 units wide, or 3. And again, these are provided for you in the in Blackboard. Feel free to print out as many of these as you need. Okay, so let's start thinking about how we want to put this together. This, as I've already said, goes in this area. Cut it out, put a little bit of glue on the back, and I'm not expecting these to be perfect polished. I want you to start experimenting with the spaces themselves and how things go together. Headline here. Then we begin to take the type and put it in place. We have a secondary headline here, which spans like that. So we're going to glue that down. Feel free to cut type if you need it to make it longer or shorter as appropriate. That lines up like that. And let's say that your type will be lining up. And you'll notice how everything is placed on those vertical and horizontal lines that we utilized. Pictures. Pictures are easy. We don't have any ones. You can download stuff from the internet, or just simply make a box to indicate where that image will go. It should line up with the top of your copy. And the baseline of a block of type. To indicate an image, I'm just going to sketch something in. Just take a box, put an X through it. As you begin to work with this, you'll see that the flexibility, where everything is set on a consistent increment, allows you to change things, blow it up or down, change it around, and get the effect that you're looking for. When you're done, you'll have a modular grid for a project, such as Vignelli designed for the National Park System, and a sense of how to start working with a grid and develop the underlying structure for all of your design materials.